You will never rise until you understand one truth. No one is coming to save you, no miracle is waiting for you, and no approval will suddenly appear to push you forward. You must force yourself to believe in yourself even when your mind screams otherwise, because self-belief isn't a gift. It's a discipline. It's a decision you renew every single morning when your doubts crawl out of the dark to choke you again. And if you don't crush them, they will crush you. You think belief should feel natural? That's a lie. Belief is built through repeated action, through doing what you're afraid of, through saying, I will, long before you have any proof that you can. The world respects the person who moves without certainty, who acts without permission, who dares without guarantees. That's the person you must become, not tomorrow, now. You are your own jailer. Belief is the key you refuse to use, and the truth is brutally simple. The walls around you were built by your own hesitation, your own fear, your own willingness to accept a life smaller than the one you're capable of living. Every limitation you complain about, every obstacle you point at, every excuse you repeat to yourself is just another bar in the cage you've designed. And the most dangerous part? You've lived in that cage for so long that you've convinced yourself it's normal. You've mistaken comfort for peace, routine for identity, and survival for living. But deep down you know the truth. Something inside you is screaming that you were meant for more, that you're wasting your potential every time you doubt yourself, that you're betraying the version of you who once believed anything was possible. That voice is your freedom, and you keep silencing it. You refuse to use the key because using it comes with responsibility. Because once you unlock that door, you can't blame anyone else for what happens next. You can't hide behind excuses, you can't point fingers, you can't wait for conditions to improve. You must face the raw reality that you are the one who shapes your destiny. That level of ownership scares people, so they stay locked in the cage, pretending they're trapped by fate, by circumstances, by the opinions of others. But no, the lock is on the inside, it always has been. Belief isn't something that appears out of nowhere. Belief isn't some magical spark that arrives one morning and suddenly transforms you. Belief is a force you build by doing the things you don't want to do, by stepping into situations that stretch you, by showing your mind evidence that you are stronger than your fears have told you. But instead of building belief, you've been feeding doubt. Every time you hesitate, every time you delay, every time you choose comfort over growth, you reinforce the idea that you're not capable, and the mind believes what it sees repeatedly. You've trained your own mind to underestimate you. You are your own jailer because you've allowed your past failures to define your limits. You've replayed your mistakes so many times that you've turned them into prison guards standing at the door with folded arms convincing you not to try again. You've allowed other people's opinions, people who don't know your potential, people who don't carry your dreams, to become chains around your ambition. And worst of all, you've allowed fear to disguise itself as logic. You call it being realistic. You call it playing it safe. You call it waiting for the right time. But all of that is self-deception. Fear is running your life while you pretend you're being responsible. Belief is the key, and you refuse to use it because using it means stepping into uncertainty. It means risking failure. It means risking embarrassment. But let me tell you something ruthless and true. You will never escape that cage until you stop caring about those risks. Failure won't kill you. Embarrassment won't kill you. Discomfort won't kill you. But living a life where you never even tested your limits, that kills you slowly, silently, piece by piece, year after year. That is the real danger, that slow death of potential, that quiet decay of dreams, that moment when you realize you've become a spectator in your own life instead of the warrior who was meant to conquer it. The moment you force yourself to believe in yourself, everything shifts. Doors you thought were locked begin to open. Opportunities you thought were out of reach start appearing. Strength you didn't know you possessed rises to the surface because belief changes how you move. how you speak, how you work, how you endure. Belief makes you relentless. Belief makes you dangerous to your excuses. Belief makes you immune to the opinions of the small-minded. Belief transforms you from a passive participant into the architect of your own destiny. But belief won't come through inspiration alone. It won't come through waiting. It won't come through hoping. It comes through forcing your mind to obey you. It comes through disciplined repetition, through decisive action, through proving to yourself again and again that you are capable of more than you think. It comes through doing the hard things when no one is watching, through choosing growth over comfort, through stepping toward the unknown with a spine of steel. You are your own jailer, but you are also the only one who can break the chains. No mentor can do it for you. No book can do it for you. No motivation video can do it for you. You have to decide that you're done living on the sidelines. You have to look yourself in the mirror and admit that the life you desire will not be given to you. It must be demanded. You have to unlock the cage and step into the world with the unshakable belief that you will build the version of you that you can be proud of. And once you step out, never go back. Never apologize for wanting more. Never shrink for anyone again. Never let your doubts dictate your destiny. Use the key, break the cage, walk out and never look back. Waiting for confidence is weakness, acting without it is power. And if you can't swallow that truth, then understand this. Every second you sit there hoping confidence will magically appear is a second you're guaranteeing your own failure. Confidence is not some divine reward that drops into the lap of people who wait. It's the byproduct of movement, of struggle, of doing things that terrify you until your mind has no choice but to adapt. You're sitting still expecting the storm inside you to calm, but storms don't calm when you hide. They calm when you walk straight into them and prove they cannot shake you. That is where power is born. Not in comfort, not in certainty, not in emotional safety, but in action taken when you feel unprepared, insecure, and unsure. You've been lied to your whole life. You were told to wait until you feel ready, until you feel strong, until you feel confident. That advice is trash. If you wait to feel confident before you move, you will die waiting. The people who rise, the people who build, the people who dominate do not act because they're confident. They become confident because they act. Courage isn't a feeling, it's a command. You step forward first and the feeling comes later. You take the first punch, the first risk, the first leap, and your mind finally learns that you won't break. That's how power is forged. Waiting is the drug of the weak. It keeps you numb, keeps you fragile, keeps you dependent on perfect conditions that will never exist. And while you sit there hoping for the right moment, someone with half your potential is already out there messing up, learning, adjusting, growing, and becoming someone unstoppable. They're gaining strength while you're gaining excuses. They're earning confidence while you're fantasizing about it. They're building a future while you're rehearsing your fears. You are being left behind not because you lack ability, but because you lack the spine to act without certainty. Acting without confidence is the ultimate declaration of self-belief. It is the moment you say, I don't care how I feel, I'm moving anyway. That mindset separates the elite from the average. Most people worship their emotions. They obey fear. They listen to doubt. They let anxiety dictate every choice they make. But the ones who climb out of mediocrity do the opposite. They move in spite of those emotions. They build habits that overpower their insecurities. They take action so consistently that fear eventually gets tired of trying to stop them. Your problem isn't lack of confidence. Your problem is that you believe confidence is required. It's not. What's required is action. Painful, uncomfortable, uncertain action. Action that feels like walking barefoot across broken glass. Action that forces your mind to adapt or break. Action that rewrites the story you've been telling yourself about who you are and what you're capable of. You don't need confidence to take the first step. You need discipline. You need defiance. You need to get angry enough at your own excuses that you stop negotiating with them. The reason you don't feel confident is because you haven't given yourself any evidence. You want your mind to believe in power it hasn't seen you use. You want confidence without conquest. You want pride without pain. You want the reward without the risk. That's not how life works. Your mind believes what you repeatedly do. If you repeatedly hide, it learns you're weak. If you repeatedly hesitate, it learns you're scared. But if you repeatedly act while afraid, it learns you are unstoppable. That is how confidence is created, through proof, not through dreaming. Acting without confidence is a skill, and like any skill, it gets easier the more you do it. The first step will be messy. The second step will feel wrong. The third will feel forced. But every step you take chips away at the chains that have held you back for years. Every action you take while scared becomes a weapon you can use against the next challenge. And eventually, you become someone who doesn't need confidence to move. You move because moving is who you are. The world does not reward hesitation. It does not reward potential. It does not reward good intentions. It rewards the ones who step into the arena bleeding, shaking, unsure, but determined. Those who act without confidence gain something far more valuable, momentum. Momentum creates results. Results create belief. Belief creates confidence, and confidence creates dominance. But it all begins with action, not emotion. Stop waiting to feel strong. Start acting like someone who refuses to let fear dictate their life. Stop begging your mind for confidence. Start commanding your body to move. Stop searching for certainty. Start creating it through action. Confidence is not the beginning, it is the prize. Take the step now while you're scared, because that is the only moment that actually matters. That is the moment your future self is begging you not to waste. Waiting is weakness. Acting is power. Choose power. Doubt is a parasite. Starve it through disciplined action, because if you don't, it will sink its teeth into every dream you have and drain the life out of your potential. Doubt is not some harmless feeling you can ignore. It grows. It spreads. It feeds on your hesitation, on your fear, on every moment you choose comfort over courage. And the more you allow it to live inside you, the more it convinces you that you are smaller than your ambitions, weaker than your goals, and incapable of becoming the person you were meant to be. Doubt doesn't need your permission to control you. It just needs you to stay passive. That is how it wins. You've let doubt speak louder than your purpose. You've allowed it to build narratives inside your mind that sound like truth simply because you've heard them so often. It whispers that you might fail, and instead of fighting back, you agree. It tells you you're not ready, and you nod along as if readiness is something that magically appears. It convinces you to wait a little longer, knowing damn well that a little longer turns into forever. Doubt thrives when you pause. Every second wasted becomes more food for it. Every excuse you make becomes another feast. But here's the brutal truth. Doubt has no power when you're in motion. Doubt collapses when you act. Discipline is its death sentence. When you do the things your fear tells you to avoid, when you move forward despite uncertainty, when you push your limits until they break, that is when doubt starves. That is when you reclaim control over your life. Discipline is not glamorous, it's not exciting, it's not comfortable, but it is the only thing that shuts doubt up. You don't argue with doubt. You starve it by refusing to feed it your time, your hesitation, or your excuses. Doubt loves a weak routine. If your days are sloppy, your habits are inconsistent, your goals are loose, doubt will fill every gap. It will take advantage of the spaces where your discipline should be. But when you build a routine so sharp, so structured, so intentional that there is no room for hesitation, doubt withers. Doubt cannot survive in the presence of someone who shows up every day with purpose. It cannot survive in a mind trained to act, to execute, to move without needing motivation or reassurance. The truth is, doubt only feels powerful because you've been feeding it more than you've been feeding your discipline. You feed it by overthinking, by imagining worst-case scenarios, by replaying your failures, by comparing yourself to others, by expecting perfection before you even start. Every negative thought, every delay, every moment of inaction is a meal you serve to the parasite crawling through your mind. You've been nourishing your enemy and starving your potential. Disciplined action is how you flip the power dynamic. It is how you remind doubt that it has no authority over you. Action doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be confident. It doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to be consistent. Every disciplined action, no matter how small, is a blow to the parasite trying to consume you. Wake up early, doubt weakens. Work on your goals even when you're tired. Doubt shrinks. Push through discomfort. Doubt loses its grip. Repeat this long enough, and doubt becomes too weak to control you and understand. This doubt is loudest right before you improve. It screams the most when you're close to breakthrough. It tries hardest to stop you when it senses you're building momentum. That's because doubt knows once you get a taste of your own power, you're not going back. So when doubt gets aggressive, don't take it as a sign to slow down. Take it as a sign that you're exactly where you need to be. Push harder, move faster, refuse to let the parasite regain strength. Disciplined action transforms you. It doesn't just starve doubt, it rewires your identity. When you repeatedly act in the face of fear, your mind starts seeing you as someone who is capable, someone who is reliable, someone who gets things done regardless of how they feel. And once that identity takes root, doubt becomes irrelevant. It tries to whisper the same old lies, but you've changed. You no longer listen. You no longer negotiate. You no longer hesitate. You move. Doubt only has power when you surrender your power, and you surrender your power every time you wait for motivation. Every time you think you need confidence, every time you let your emotions dictate your decisions. But disciplined action doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't care what mood you're in. It doesn't care about the problems swirling in your head. It demands only one thing, movement. That's why disciplined people win. They don't wait for their minds to catch up. They lead. Their actions shape their mind, not the other way around. Starve your doubt. Feed your discipline. Build routines so strong that fear becomes irrelevant. Act so consistently that hesitation has no oxygen left. Become the kind of person who moves first and thinks later. The kind of person whose actions speak louder than any internal noise. The kind of person doubt cannot survive inside. Because once doubt dies, the real version of you finally gets to live. Your excuses are lies dressed as logic. Destroy them ruthlessly, because the longer you entertain them, the more they rot your potential from the inside out. Every excuse you've ever made has worn the same mask. It sounded reasonable. It sounded responsible. It sounded like you were protecting yourself. But underneath all that fake logic was nothing but fear, laziness, hesitation, and a refusal to take ownership of your own life. Excuses are the stories you tell yourself to avoid discomfort, avoid responsibility, avoid change. They feel safe. They feel protective. But they poison you slowly because every time you choose an excuse, you're choosing weakness over strength. Excuses are engineered to sound intelligent. They whisper things like, "This isn't the right time. I need to prepare more. I'm not ready yet. I'm too busy. I don't want to fail." And you swallow every word because they feel true. But they're not truth. They're convenient lies wrapped in rational-sounding words. And if you don't tear them apart, they will guide your entire life. You'll convince yourself that your circumstances stopped you, that your past stopped you, that your limitations stopped you. But the reality is much simpler. Your excuses stopped you. You've become a genius at justifying failure before you even try. You over-explain why you can't start. You overthink every potential risk. You exaggerate every obstacle. You minimize every opportunity. And you call all of this thinking smart. It's not smart. It's cowardice disguised as intelligence. You're not analyzing. You're avoiding. You're not being cautious. You're being controlled by fear. You're not choosing strategy. You're choosing safety. And nothing great has ever been built by someone who worships safety. Your excuses are parasites feeding on your ambition. Every time you let one of them survive, it multiplies. Give it a week and it becomes 2. Give it a month and it becomes 20. Give it a year and your entire life is run by stories that keep you small. You start believing that your dream is unrealistic, your goals are too big, and your abilities are too limited. But none of that is real. What's real is the weight of excuses you've stacked on your own shoulders. When you destroy excuses, you destroy the illusion that you're powerless. Because excuses only exist to protect your ego from one truth: your results are your responsibility. And that truth burns. It forces you to face the reality that your life is a direct reflection of the choices you've made, not your circumstances, not your luck, not your surroundings, not your past. You, your consistency, your work ethic, your self-discipline, your standards. That's the part your excuses hide from you. Excuses survive because you negotiate with them. You argue back and forth in your own head. You let your mind present its weak case like a lawyer defending failure. You give those excuses airtime, attention, and emotional energy. You let them sound reasonable. You let them influence your decisions. But the moment you stop negotiating, the moment you decide your excuses have zero authority, something changes. Your mind stops getting away with nonsense. Your standards rise, your actions become sharper, your path becomes clearer, because excuses lose their power in the presence of absolute commitment. Destroying excuses is not comfortable. It requires looking at yourself without filters. It requires admitting that you've been playing small. It requires acknowledging how much time you've wasted. It requires accepting that your life would be better right now if you hadn't lied to yourself so many times. That truth is hard to swallow, but it's also the moment your transformation starts. You can't change what you refuse to confront. And you can't confront anything if you keep hiding behind excuses. Ruthlessness is required because excuses do not die gently. They tighten their grip. They scream louder. They try to guilt trip you. They try to convince you that pushing harder will break you. But you must be louder. You must be stronger. You must be willing to kill the version of yourself that lived off excuses for so long. That version is comfortable, but comfort is the enemy of greatness. You must outgrow it. Every time you feel an excuse rising, cut it immediately. Not tomorrow, not after thinking it through. In the moment. Interrupt the thought. Replace it with action. You train your mind the same way you train your body, through repetition. If you repeatedly crush excuses, eventually your brain stops offering them. It learns that your standard is execution, not negotiation. Excuses appear strongest right before you level up. They fight hardest when you're closest to change. That's why you feel the most resistance right before a breakthrough. The old version of you is panicking, trying to survive, but you don't owe that version anything. Sacrifice it, outgrow it, leave it behind. The life you want cannot be built by the person you used to be. Destroy your excuses ruthlessly, because they are the greatest enemy you will ever face. Not failure, not critics, not challenges. Excuses. They are the root of your stagnation, the chains around your ambition, the hidden force keeping you average. Rip them out before they rip your future away from you. When you stop accepting excuses, you start accepting responsibility. When you stop accepting excuses, you start accepting growth. When you stop accepting excuses, you step into the identity of someone who refuses to be held back by weakness. Your excuses are lies. Kill the lies. Build the truth. Move with purpose, and never again let the fake logic of fear dictate your destiny. Self-belief is not a feeling, it's a command you give yourself daily, because if you wait for belief to show up on its own, you will live your entire life at half power, half commitment, half potential. Feelings are unstable. They shift, they rise, they fall, they lie, they distract. But a command is different. A command is a decision, a standard, a non-negotiable order you enforce on your own mind, no matter what chaos is happening inside you. The people who rise aren't the ones who feel confident every day. They are the ones who make belief a rule they obey, especially on the days when doubt screams the loudest. Self-belief isn't something you wait for. It's something you impose. You've been taught to treat belief like a mood, something that arrives when life is easy and disappears when things get tough. That mindset is trash. If your belief can be shaken by inconvenience, then you never believed in yourself in the first place. Real self-belief is built on discipline, not emotion. It's built through the repeated decision to stand tall even when you don't feel powerful. It's built through commanding your mind to follow your goals regardless of fear, uncertainty, or exhaustion. When you understand that belief is a command, you stop asking for motivation and you start demanding obedience from your own mind. Your mind is not your master unless you let it be. It will throw doubt at you, fear at you, insecurity at you, but those are just echoes of old habits. When you tell yourself, I can, your mind will fight back with maybe not. When you tell yourself, I will, your mind whispers, what if you fail? When you tell yourself, move, it tells you, wait, think, prepare more. You cannot negotiate with a mind trained by years of hesitation. You retrain it through commands, through repetition, through daily reminders that you are in control, not your emotions, not your fears, not your weakness. Self-belief is a command because belief must be stronger than your circumstances. If you only believe on good days, you're not building a future. You're riding a wave. Anyone can believe when things are smooth, when results are visible, when you feel like you're winning. But life doesn't reward those who only show up in the sunshine. The world belongs to the ones who command themselves to believe even when everything is going wrong, when the progress is invisible, when the effort feels wasted, when the results are slow. It's in those moments that belief matters most, because that's where most people quit. You don't rise because you feel strong. You rise because you tell yourself to rise. You don't keep going because you feel brave. You keep going because you tell yourself to keep going. You don't win because fear disappears. You win because you tell fear to sit down and shut up while you execute. That is the difference between the average and the unstoppable. The average waits for the right feeling. The unstoppable creates the right feeling through action, discipline, and repeated self-command. Every morning you wake up with two identities fighting inside you. The version of you that doubts, fears, and hesitates, and the version of you that wants to dominate, achieve, and rise. The winner is determined by who you feed, and feeding is done through commands. When you tell yourself, I am capable, you feed the warrior. When you tell yourself, I'll try tomorrow, you feed the coward. When you tell yourself, I've got this, you build strength. When you tell yourself it's too hard, you build weakness. Belief is a choice, not a feeling. And your choices build your identity far more powerfully than your emotions ever will. Self-belief is a command because your future depends on it. Every goal you have requires a stronger version of you. Every dream demands someone who doesn't fold under pressure. Every level you want to reach will expose your doubts, and your job is to crush them with the force of your own conviction. You can't afford to give yourself weak instructions. You can't afford to speak to yourself like someone desperate to be saved. You must speak like a leader, like a fighter, like someone who refuses to be denied. This is not about being delusional. It's about aligning your inner voice with the person you want to become, not the person you fear you are. When you command belief, you command action. When you command action, you command progress. When you command progress, you command transformation. And once transformation begins, belief becomes automatic, not because it magically appears, but because you earned it through discipline. Your mind listens to what you repeatedly tell it. If you tell it you're weak, it believes you. If you tell it you're capable, it believes you. If you tell it success is possible, it believes you. And if you tell it nothing, if you let fear and doubt speak louder, it believes them. Silence is not neutrality. Silence is surrender. If you